All right, so thank you guys for tuning in to Chomping at the Bit. This is episode number 100. We have made it to our first milestone, episode 100. So it's, something to celebrate on that one. But first of many, plan on being here for the next 100, the 100 after that. We'll just keep this going as long as we can. But to those of you who maybe have been listeners since day one, appreciate it. And hopefully you stick around with me and let's try to make this, community grow. Small right now, but I know that the day's coming where we can actually, interact and all that, have some more fun with it. But, in due time, as I like to say. So with that, in the last episode I talked about the play-in tournament for the Eastern Conference side. Well, in this episode we're going to talk about the Western Conference. We had Spurs versus the Grizzlies in the 9-10 matchup, and then Lakers Warriors in the 7-8 matchup. So if you are new and I guess you're not really sure how the NBA play-in tournament works, basically what happened was, so the Spurs and the Grizzlies were playing to see who would be the opponent in the 8th place game. The loser of that game, they're done. Their season is officially over at that point. The winner of that game then sits there and waits for the loser of the Lakers-Warriors game, because the winner of that game becomes the 7 seed. And then, like I said, that loser faces the winner of Spurs-Grizzlies, and then the winner of that game becomes the 8 seed. So, there you are. That's explaining the play-in tournament for you. As I said in the last episode, I like the play-in tournament idea. I think it gives meaning to the last couple of weeks of the season, because you still have something to play for. If you're at the bottom of the play-in tournament, you can either play your way into the regular field of 6, or secure your spot in the play-in tournament. If you're just outside of it, maybe you work your way in. So more teams involved means more meaningful games late in the year. So we'll have to see if they keep it. I think they should, but we'll just have to see what decisions they make. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and take a look at the Spurs and Grizzlies game, because that was the first game of the night. So coming into this game, I was expecting Memphis. They had the better record. In the regular season. So I felt that they were the better team. Now, for the Spurs, they missed the playoffs last year, which was the first time they missed the playoffs under Greg Popovich in 20 years. So, for them being in the play-in, it would give them a chance to get back into the playoffs after being out last year. And I guess maybe Pop can start a new run of consistency in the playoffs. But it wasn't going to happen, as the Grizzlies did beat them 100-96. It was a pretty good game. It started off looking like a blowout, because Memphis had a 19-point lead after the first quarter. But as we've seen in the NBA, it's a game of runs. So if you're down, 15, 20 in the first quarter, doesn't mean you're completely out of it. And, San Antonio in the second quarter got back into it. Were within striking distance at halftime. Played even in the third quarter. And Memphis was able to hold on to pull it out. Like I said, 196. So the Spurs are done back-to-back years. They're not in the playoffs. And for me, I understand that they're going through a bit of a transition period. The days of Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, long gone. And I feel like what this game showed was that, coming into this, DeRozan was their star player. I feel like the way DeRozan plays, he can't be your number one on a playoff team. Not to say he's not a good player, he is, but I think in today's NBA, DeRozan is more of a running mate than a, number one guy. And fortunately for the Spurs, they look at DeRozan as the number one option because, he has the most experience, I guess, on the team, other than maybe Rudy Gay and Patty Mills. But, if you have DeRozan and Rudy Gay on the floor at the same time, they kind of cut into each other's space, although Rudy Gay, especially in this game, when he went 3 for 7 from three-point land, so he can stay more on the perimeter, but DeRozan doesn't shoot threes. So DeRozan's only operating in the mid-game plus the post, depending on who's guarding him. Now, it doesn't help the fact that he went 5 for 21 in this game. And, when he shoots like that, most likely the Spurs are going to lose. So like I said, the Spurs are in a spot where clearly they want to move forward with DeJounte Murray and I would say like Lonnie Walker, and I think his name is Kerry Johnson. Those are like the three young guys who were, I think, pretty high draft picks, I believe. So I think that's the core that they're hoping can build together, and then complementing that group will be guys like Vassell. Rudy Gay, will have to see what they do with him. They have Jakob Pertl, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Patty Mills is probably going to be a lifer as a Spur, so he'll be there as the, kind of 3-point specialist. So, like I was saying, the old big three of Duncan and them were built more on fundamentals, execution, whereas the new core going forward, I think, is going to be more athletic. You see the Spurs play with more pace. I just think that those three have to get more experience, and then they should be fine. And then we'll have to see how long Popovich goes. He's been coaching for a while. Of course, he's not getting any younger. I think they've been grooming Becky Hammond to probably take over that position when Pop does decide to step down. And maybe that will coincide with when the young group is ready to really take over. Looking on the other side, you have the Grizzlies, who, the Grizzlies are a good young team. I guess the only issue for them has been injuries, and I guess like last year, the year before, the strength of the Western Conference. Now, they have their core of Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., who missed a lot of time this year. I think the biggest thing with him is they need to get him to stay healthy for a season, and then we can really see what Memphis is all about. But, he's a good young player. Sometimes for me, I think he could, hang around the perimeter a little too much, but, he can shoot from out. He went 2 for 4 from 3. At least he's not like jacking up 8, 9 of them. For the most part, the Grizzlies aren't really a 3-point shooting team, and they know that. So they pretty much stay within themselves. They're more of a, Morant break down the defense, get into the paint, finish at the rim. Valanciunas just hangs around the rim. This game he had 23 points, 23 rebounds. So he was a very important part of what Memphis will be doing going forward if they are able to win their way in to the 8th seed. They have Dylan Brooks, who's become more and more of a focal point of their team because, he is a two-way player. So on defense, he'll take pretty tough assignments. And then offensively, he's a guy who likes to, cut to the basket. He can finish around the rim. Three-point shooting wise, he's kind of hit or miss. I would say he's probably a streaky shooter. He went 0 for 3 in this game, so didn't have it tonight. They have Kyle Anderson, who, if you watch him play, he looks like he's playing half speed compared to everybody else. And they don't really expect him to score too much. He gave them 9 points in this game, but he's more there to play pretty good defense and offensively move the ball. If he finds himself open, take a shot. But other than that, make sure Morant, Jackson, Valanciunas are doing work. Off the bench, not really a lot to speak of there. What's his name? Desmond Bane, the rookie for them, will play a lot of minutes. He only had 7 points in this game, but ultimately they're pretty much going to ride their starters. As far as they can. Luckily, the starting group's pretty young, so they should be fine there. And if they win the 8 seed, they'll be going up against Utah, which will create some interesting matchups. So we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. The Lakers-Warriors game, which I'm about to talk about. If you watched it, you already know who Memphis will be playing. But we'll have to see if they're able to finish the job and get in as an 8 seed. So for me, Memphis future, pretty bright. Just need to stay healthy. San Antonio is still in, I don't know if I'd call it a rebuild because they didn't completely tear it down and they haven't really fallen off that far. I guess a reload, we'll call it. Well, now we'll have to see what moves they can make in the offseason. I wonder if the Spurs may entertain some offers for DeRozan. Maybe that way they can bring in maybe draft pick or so, maybe a young guy, and go about it that way. We'll have to see. But yeah, Spurs season's over. Memphis is now waiting for the winner of this next game I'm about to talk about. Was the Lakers and the Warriors, which was the primetime game and turned out to be, I guess, a good capper on the night of 2 pretty good games. So in this one, we knew going in. Now I watched a lot of the sports debate shows on TV. There's a lot of people who thought that the Lakers are going to come into this game and just blow doors on the Warriors because we all know the Warriors situation. It's basically Steph Curry on offense going up against, double teams, sometimes triple teams. And then on the other side, you have the Lakers, which are led by LeBron and AD. Now, going into the game, like I said, people thought the Lakers were going to roll the Warriors. I did not see that. I actually thought that there was a pretty good outside shot of the Warriors winning this game, which I felt like would have created a great storyline for the battle for the 8 seed, where the Lakers would be going into there, as we know, against Memphis. And we already heard that the Lakers weren't really fans of the play-in, so I didn't know if they lost this game. I figured they would be motivated to win the 8 seed, but would it just fuel more of their hatred for the play-in? Of course, we won't get to see that because the Lakers did pull this game out 103-100. It was a good game. The Warriors came out. They came out firing on all cylinders. went into the half with it was like a 13-point lead. I think it was a 13-point lead because I believe Steph Curry hit a three at the buzzer going into the half. So they had the momentum. But coming out of halftime, the Lakers turned up their pressure on the Warriors, had a great third quarter, closed the gap, and made the fourth quarter probably the most exciting 12 minutes of this play-in tournament so far. It basically came down to, could Curry make enough plays? And Wiggins, I will give Wiggins some credit. Wiggins played really well in this game. And Wiggins is a guy who, he got drafted high by Minnesota, was pretty much a bust there. He didn't really live up to that high draft. He went number 1, right? Yeah. So number 1 pick, didn't really live up to it. And as we've seen since he's been in Golden State, especially this year, with Klay out again, Wiggins definitely stepped up. And he went up against LeBron a lot of the night, played him defensively, got a block on him on a post up, which was a big play in the game. Offensively, he was getting to the rim. He was a willing 3-point shooter. He only made 1 of 5, but he was taking them in rhythm, which is what they need him to do. So I don't remember Wiggins' contract situation, but if Klay could come back, we'll be interested to see what Curry, Klay, and Wiggins look like next year. And Draymond, he had a typical Draymond game, 2 points because he's not really that big of a threat offensively, but he had 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. So he fills the box sheet on hustle plays and on the defensive end mostly, which when the Warriors have their full complement of players, it really works for them. Now with this group, I think Steve Kerr would rather have Draymond score a little bit more than 2 points, but I can't really harp on him too much because they lost by 3. For the most part, they were doing well and looked like they're going to win this game. So, the formula with Draymond in this game, I will say, was working because he drew the assignment on AD most of the night, and Steve Kerr basically ran Draymond's minutes around Anthony Davis for the most part, which I thought was smart because, he, of course, he's not as tall as AD. Athletically, he's probably pretty even, and AD for the most part can jump over him and take shots that way. But Draymond, plays a style that, he tries to get under your skin because he's always talking and all this kind of stuff. And he tries to use his body to, physically impose himself on you. And, he did. I said, okay. AD did have 25 and 12, but I do think with their collective effort on defense, kept this game, close at the end, but helped them get that big lead early on, and pretty much for most of the first half. The biggest play of the game was the LeBron headed to the rim. Draymond went up, and it looks like Draymond's finger caught LeBron in the eye. He was down for a while, and they looked at it to see if it was a flagrant, which, as I was watching the game, I knew it wasn't a flagrant, but I didn't know with, LeBron rolling around and making it seem like, maybe Draymond had, dragged him down or something. I thought he may have baited them into a flagrant. Ultimately, they didn't give him one, which I thought was just a great move there. But ultimately, it came down to final minute of the game. The score was tied at 100. I believe LeBron came down the court on the right wing, threw an entry pass into KCP on the block, and he looked like he was going to make a move but realized it was shut off. And I know Steve Kerr and the Warriors bench are calling for a travel. I'd probably have to see the play again to see if it really was one. Like, I know watching live, I didn't really think it was. I thought he kept his pivot foot, but I could see why Kerr and them would think it was a travel, because it did look like I can understand from their vantage point why they would think it was a travel. But he kicked it out to LeBron, and let's see, he had Curry on him. So he was able to rise up, took the deep three, he made it, gave them the 103-100 lead. Of course, the Warriors called timeout to drop a play, get to the front court, and they ran, I believe, a double screen for Curry. He was coming around, the pass came in, but it was a little too hot and too high for him, bounced off his hand, turnover, and ultimately that's how the game ended. So, Curry did all he could. He had 37 points. He shot 6 of 9 from 3. He was 12 for 23 from the floor. So, I mean, if they get that consistently from Curry, I think there'll be a problem if they get by Memphis. And this would be for a Utah team. I'm sure Utah would hate to see the Warriors coming in as the 8th seed. I mean, they probably would have hated seeing the Lakers as an 8th seed as well. But, yeah, I mean, Curry showed in this game why he is a MVP finalist, as we learned early Thursday. And just by watching this game, you can see why. I mean, offensively, he's the main threat for defenses. They run everything at him. But because of his deep three ability, his quick release, and his ability to, come off a screen, pull up on a dime, run off a screen, catch it, release it, and basically like no time flat. When he's on, he gives the Warriors a great chance. If, he's having a rough shooting day and maybe he gets into some foul trouble, whatever, I really don't see who else on the Warriors team steps up in that situation. Maybe Wiggins does, but I don't know. So the Lakers, who, let me see. LeBron had 22, AD had 25. Schroeder had 12, Caldwell Pope had 10, and Caruso had 14. So they had some balance there. Quickly with the Warriors, like I said, Steph Curry had 37, Wiggins had 21, good game. You had Bazemore with 10, but I mean, Bazemore is what he is at this point. And then Poole had 10, so a little bit more just distribution of points with the Lakers, but still a great game. Probably instant. I'd say probably an instant classic. Definitely a game I wouldn't be surprised if it was replayed on NBA TV or something over the weekend. It was that good, and with the fans there in the Forum, Staples Center, definitely created an atmosphere. So yeah, I mean, I have to tip my hat to the Warriors. They really came in, showed out well. Now they have to take that disappointment of losing a close game to the Lakers, turn around on Friday night, and then do it again against the Memphis, which I guess we could look at it right now quickly. So Memphis against Golden State, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because you have Valanciunas. So I think, Looney for the Warriors is going to be tasked with keeping Valanciunas off the boards because that's where he really, really can kill you. Like I said, he scored 23 in their game against literally just talking about the Spurs. So yeah, Looney's got to keep him off the glass. Curry, I don't know do you put Curry on Morant? You put him on Brooks? I don't know. That could be something Memphis tries to exploit because they do have kind of bigger guard set. So whoever Curry's on, maybe they try posting them up or running off screens or something. Try to, I guess, up the physicality on him. Maybe that way you can negate something that he does offensively. But I think Wiggins may be the X factor in that game again because we already know that Curry's going to garner a lot of attention from Memphis. So Wiggins can find his spot, some cuts to the hoop, just moving without the ball. He should be able to find some easy buckets there. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. Looking on Memphis' side, like I said, Morant, I guess if Curry's on him, then Morant's going to have to be able to take advantage of that, whether it is post-ups, pulling up mid-range, something like that. The key here is when going up against the Warriors, since Curry is the main offensive threat, you gotta, be physical with them, make them feel you, set hard screens, that kind of stuff. But yeah, interesting game. It's a game where, like I said, you'll probably see Valanciunas and Looney early on, but they go to the bench. You'll probably see two teams that go small, and I think the Grizzlies maybe are a little deeper because, let's see, this game the Warriors only went with 8 players. And of the players who sat out, I don't really see which ones make an impact in the next game. Unless there's foul trouble, and of course, they're forced to play somebody. But I guess early on, thinking about it, I think Golden State finds a way to get the win, get the 8th slot, which would then set up an interesting West Coast bracket. But like I said, we'll break down playoffs more when the play-in's done and we know the matchups and all that. But so yeah, like that game's Friday night. The Eastern Conference game between Washington and Indiana, that's Thursday night. So like I said, next episode, definitely talk about those two games. And then at that point, we'll know the playoff field. So I will go ahead and talk about that and the matchups I like, maybe possible upsets and all that. So I would say so far through the play-in tournament, I'd give it maybe like a B- grade. If you want to go C+, I wouldn't argue with you. Obviously, the West side has been probably more enjoyable to watch than the East. I love the Celtics game as a Celtics fan, but them pretty much blowing out Washington wasn't great TV. And Pacers, Hornets was non-competitive, so that wasn't really great to watch on TV. But hopefully the Battle for 8 game in the East, Indiana-Washington, is a little better. By the time you listen to this, you probably know what happens in that game already. So for those of you who haven't seen it, maybe watch it a little later. I won't spoil it for you. But as I said at the beginning, hopefully this play-in tournament's here to stay. It's good to me. What else? I think I pretty much covered. All right, for the Lakers real quick. Andre Drummond. I guess let me talk about Andre Drummond for a quick second here. I don't know, I guess, how he fits going forward in the playoffs. Because let's see, is the 7th seed, they have to play Phoenix. Well, I guess there he could play against Ayton. But, I mean, he looks like he's really just struggling to find his way with this team right now. I mean, he had 4 points, he had 7 rebounds, but he played with only 17 minutes. You know, he's a guy coming in who was, you know, early on in his career, basically a walking 20-20 type game, 20 points, 20 rebounds. I mean, he still is physically imposing, just that he's limited offensively. And I think between, you know, LeBron and AD, they'll probably find a way of working him in a little more. But that is something I'm interested to see going forward. And I feel like there's something else I want to talk about real quick, but I mean, that might be a good place to stop on this one. Okay, so now that the Lakers are in the playoffs, I guess one question I do have is, looking at last year with the situation being in the bubble and all that, having the 3 months rest while, you know, the sports world, like the regular world, stopped on a dime with COVID cases and all that kind of stuff. Was that environment the reason why the Lakers won last year, where there was no travel? And like I said, you know, LeBron's getting up there in age. That 3-month layoff definitely worked for him. And then when they got to the bubble, they were able to, you know, have that energy and all that to carry it on to NBA Finals and win it all eventually. But this year, I do wonder, now that, you know, they're going to have to travel for the road games, there's going to be crowds and all that. I mean, how good really are the Lakers' chances of repeating? Like, I'm not even worried about them being a 7 seed. I think seeding, especially with this year, like I said, got COVID year and all this kind of stuff, seeding might be a little irrelevant this year. It's going to, of course, be about matchups. And maybe the Lakers lucked out in getting Phoenix in the first round. Not to say Phoenix isn't talented, of course, but maybe a better matchup for them than against Utah, where, you know, Donovan Mitchell, who was having a great year from deep. You have Gobert, who, I mean, he knows what he is. He sticks around the hoop, affects shots and all that kind of stuff. So definitely something that's on my mind now that the Lakers are into the playoffs. But like I said, due time, we'll go over the NBA bracket and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's a tease for you. You have to wait for that to see if I have the Lakers repeating as champions. Do I have them making the finals? Do I have a brand new Western Conference team in the finals? We'll have to see. But yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything with the play-in tournament so far. And so, like I said, quick reminder, next episode, that point, the 8 seed should be decided for the East and the Western Conference. We'll look at those games real quickly, and then we'll just talk about the NBA playoffs. I mean, yes, it was a shortened season, but it does seem like they came pretty quickly. I'm happy, love NBA playoff action. But yeah, so like I said, look at the NBA bracket. I'll go through it, give you my predictions for each series, pick the winners and all that, all the way down to the NBA Finals. So we'll do that. I still want to talk about the NHL playoffs, which is the other playoffs that are going on right now. If you haven't been paying attention, you should. They've been pretty exciting. Of course, I've been tuning in because my Bruins are in it. So I've been watching those games a lot. Definitely talk about some of that, as well as where the series are when I do get to it, and see maybe who's moved on to the second round. We'll talk about the NHL playoff format and all that kind of stuff as well. I guess then after that, we'll just kind of see. There's definitely still football to talk about as we're getting closer to, training camp and all that kind of stuff. Still talk about that, but sorry about that. But yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Maybe you learned something. I don't know, but like I said, follow me on Twitter @ChompingPodcast. Let me know what you thought. If you agreed with what I said, something I said might have been crazy, let me know. Maybe give me your thoughts on who you think ends up in the finals this year for the NBA and NHL, for any of my hockey fans out there. But yeah. So if this was your first episode, thanks for tuning in. Also to the returning listeners, of course, thank you as well. Like I said, Chomping at the Bit is available all major platforms. So if you are listening to this on whichever platform you are, definitely hit subscribe or follow or whatever the option is. That way when I do upload, you'll get notified. If you prefer YouTube, these episodes are available there in audio form, of course. So you can go there, subscribe to my channel. It's my personal channel, so Kyle Edwards. All the episodes are there as well. And once again, you could talk to me over on Twitter. And, we can have a little back and forth. Nice little sports conversation on there. But, yeah. Once again, thank you. Be safe out there. God bless. And I'll catch you in the next episode. All right.